Hey, creatures of the night. It's your local ASMR Goblin here with another video. Tonight's video is actually inspired by my new friend lilacmoon ASMR. She recorded a video on her channel a while ago, I think last week or something, of her just reading some of her favorite poems. And I love poetry. It really it activated the literature major in me. For those of you that don't know, I'm a music major, English minor, and I freaking love poetry. So I was like, hey, I love poems, and I really like that video. So I want to share some of my favorite poems with you guys. And I usually whisper on this channel, and Lilac's video is whispering, but I don't know, I love to read poetry. I've actually, I don't know, one of my friends before the pandemic gave me the honor of reading some of her poetry in a performance, and that was one of my favorite things I've ever done. I love to read poetry and write it. But none of this poetry is mine. I thought about putting some of my poetry in this video, but then I've picked up all of my favorite poets, and just putting my poems in with them just doesn't quite feel right. So I'm gonna show you guys some of my favorite poems by some of my favorite poets. So yeah, and I'm gonna link lilacmoon's poetry reading down below, so please check that out because it's also really relaxing, and she has such a lovely whispering voice. It's super tingly, and yeah, I hope you enjoy. I'm gonna start by telling you that I'm a lesbian without telling you that I'm a lesbian. Look at how big this thing is. Anyway, I adore Emily Dickinson. I studied her in my first year English class, just like my intro English class, and I just fell in love with her work. So I picked this up. I have not read all of it by any means, but every so often I just flip to a page and read a poem. It's kind of like poetry tarot. You just open the book and see what it has to say to you on that given day. But I went through and marked a couple of my favorites. So yeah, let's get into it, because I have quite a few poems prepared to get through, so I don't know how long this video is going to end up being, but hopefully you guys like it. So Emily Dickinson wrote a fucking shit ton of poetry in her life, obviously. And most of them aren't titled, they're just numbered. So I'm just going to be telling you the year it was written and then the number of the poem. So if you want to look it up later, that's how Emily Dickinson's poetry works. So this one was written in 1861, and it's poem number 284. The drop that wrestles in the sea forgets her own locality, as I toward thee. She knows herself an incense small, yet small she sighs. If all is all, how larger be? The ocean smiles at her conceit, but she, forgetting Amphitrite, pleads me. This next one was one of the poems by her that I studied in my intro English class, and it's one of the ones that made me fall in love with her poetry. This one is also written in 1861, and it's poem number 288. People are drag racing outside apparently, sorry. And it's not even the good kind of drag race. Poem number 288. I'm nobody. Who are you? Are you nobody too? Then there's a pair of us. Don't tell. They'd advertise, you know. How dreary to be somebody. How public, like a frog, to tell one's name the livelong June to an admiring bog. This is a long one, but I really like it. Oh, I should probably have said this before I started reading the poetry, but because of the particular brand of mental illnesses that I suffer, some of the poems that I'm going to be reading today deal with depression, like topics of death, depression, suicide, because all of these poets dealt with that, and a lot of, like, I don't know, I do too, and I think a lot of people do, so yeah. But just, if that's not the headspace, then that's fair. But this poem's about death. Anyway, it's not, this one's not that depressing, but some of the later ones are gonna, they're great. I'm just gonna keep reading the poetry. This was written in 1929, and it's poem number 592. What care the dead... Sorry. What care the dead for chanticleer? What care the dead for day? 'Tis late your sunrise vex their face, and purple ribaldry of morning. Pour as blank on them as tier of wall the mason builded yesterday, and equally as cool. What care the dead for summer? The solstice had no sun, could waste the snow before their gate, and knew one bird attune. Could thrill their mortised ear of all the birds that be, this one beloved of mankind henceforward cherished be. What care the dead for winter? Themselves as easy freeze, June noon as January night, and soon the south her breeze. Of sycamore or cinnamon deposit in a stone, and put a stone to keep it warm, give spices unto men. I think I was enchanted when first a somber girl I read that foreign lady, the dark felt beautiful. And whether it was noon at night or only heaven at noon, for very lunacy of light I had not power to tell. The bees became as butterflies, the butterflies as swans, approached and spurned the narrow grass, and just the meanest tunes that nature murmured to herself to keep herself in cheer, I took for giants practicing Titanic opera. The days to mighty meters stepped, the homeliest adorned, as if unto a jubilee 'twere suddenly confirmed. I could not have defined the change, conversion of the mind, like sanctifying in the soul, is witnessed, not explained. 'Twas a divine insanity, the danger to be sane. Should I again experience 'tis antidote to turn to tomes of solid witchcraft, magicians be asleep. But magic hath an element like deity to keep. The battle fought between the soul and no man is the one. Of all the battles prevalent, by far the greater one. No news of it is had abroad, its bodiless campaign establishes and terminates, invisible, unknown. Nor history record it as legions of a night. The sunrise scatters, these endure, enact, and terminate. This next one it was written in 1864, and it's a short one. It's poem 903. I hide myself within my flower, that fading from your vase. You, unsuspecting, feel for me, almost a loneliness. Sorry, just come on. Okay. This next one was which one did I want to mark here? Oh, okay. This next one was written in 1873, and it's poem 559. I guess it was published in 1945, so after she died, I think. A stagnant pleasure like a pool that lets its rushes grow until they heedless tumble in and make the water slow. Impending navigation bright of shadows going down, yet even this shall rouse itself when freshets come along. I think that was actually poem 1281. I might have gotten a little bit mixed up there, but the words are still great. This next one is poem, was written in 1877 and published in 1914, and it's poem 1426. I'm good with words, but numbers make my brain, I don't know, short circuit. The pretty rain from those sweet eaves, her unintending eyes, took her own heart, including ours, by innocent surprise. The wrestle in her simple throat to hold the feeling down that vanquished her defeated feet was fervor's sudden crown. The last one for Dickinson is going to be this one from 1877 that was published in 1945. Water makes many beds for those averse to sleep. Its awful chamber open stands, its curtains blandly sweep. Abhorrent is the rest in undulating rooms, whose amplitude no end invades, whose axis never comes. Only 11 of Emily Dickinson's poems were published prior to her death in 1886. The startling originality of her work doomed it to obscurity in her lifetime. So, all of these pretty much were published after she died. Food for thought. This next author is still alive. It's Margaret Atwood. This is The Tent. This is kind of like a poetry / short story situation. Like, I would qualify it as poetry, but a lot of it, like most of it, is written like prose. So I think I've selected 2 or 3 passages from this. A couple of the shorter ones, because a couple of them are kind of long. But I highly recommend just like sitting down and reading this start to finish. I read it on a plane, and it was awesome. Like, it was a great experience to just be in transit and just, I think that's the best time to read poetry, is when you're like on the move. I don't know. I feel like it just opens your mind a little bit. I don't know. Oh. Anyway. This one. And all of the poems in here come with little illustrations. That Atwood did herself, which is really cool. A lot of people don't realize that she was a cartoonist as well. I took a course on Atwood. That's how I got introduced to this book. Anyway, iconic Canadian author, wrote The Handmaid's Tale. Y'all know. Anyway, this little passage is called Voice. I was given a voice. That's what people said about me. I cultivated my voice because it would be a shame to waste such a gift. I pictured this voice as a hothouse plant, something luxuriant, with glossy foliage and the word tuberous in the name, and a musky scent at night. I made sure the voice was provided with the right temperature, the right degree of humidity, and the right ambience. I soothed its fears. I told it not to tremble. I nurtured it. I trained it. I watched it climb up inside my neck like a vine. The voice bloomed. People said I had grown into my voice. Soon I was sought after, or rather, my voice was. We went everywhere together. What people saw was me. What I saw was my voice, ballooning out in front of me, like the translucent greenish membrane of a frog in full trill. My voice was courted. Bouquets were thrown to it. Money was bestowed upon it. Men fell on their knees before it. Applause flew around it like flocks of red birds. Invitations to perform cascaded over us. All the best places wanted us, and all at once, for as people said, though not to me, my voice would thrive only for a certain term. Then, as voices do, it would begin to shrivel. Finally, it would drop off, and I would be left alone, denuded, a dead shrub, a footnote. It's begun to happen, the shriveling. Only I have noticed it so far. There's the barest pucker in my voice, the barest wrinkle. Fear has entered me, a needleful of ether, constricting what in someone else would be my heart. Now it's evening. The neon lights come on. Excitement quickens in the streets. We sit in this hotel room, my voice and I. Or rather, in this hotel suite, because it's still nothing but the best for us. We're gathering our strength together. How much of my life do I have left? Left over, that is. My voice has used up most of it. I've given it all my love, but it's only a voice. It can never love me in return. Although it's begun to decay, my voice is still as greedy as ever. Greedier. It wants more, 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 and more. More of everything it's had so far. It won't let go of me easily. Soon it will be time for us to go out. We'll attend a luminous occasion, the two of us, chained together as always. I'll put on its favorite dress, its favorite necklace. I'll wind a fur around it to protect it from the drafts. And we'll descend to the foyer, glittering like ice, my voice attached like an invisible vampire to my throat. I love Atwood so much. Anyway. This next one is called Something Has Happened. Something has happened, but how? Was it overnight, or has it been creeping up on us and we've only just noticed? It's the girls, the young and pretty girls. They used to sing like sirens, like mermaids, all sweet and liquid, breezy melodies, wavy melodies. But now they're shorn of melody, though their mouths open and close as before. Have their tongues been cut out? This is true as well as this is true as well of the cries of babies, the wailing at funerals, the screams that used to arise, especially at night, from the mad, from the tortured. It's the same thing with the birds, flying as before, spreading out their wings as before, heads thrown back, beaks gaping, but they're mute. Mute or muted? Who has been at work with a great carpet of invisible snow that blots out sound? Listen. The leaves no longer rustle. The wind no longer sighs. Our hearts no longer beat. They've fallen silent, fallen as if into the earth. Or is it we who have fallen? Perhaps it's not the world that is soundless, but we who are deaf. What membrane seals us off from the music we used to dance to? Why can't we hear? This next one comes after the title work, which is the 10th, and it's called Time Folds. Time folds, he said, meaning that as time goes on, it buckles in extreme heat, in the extreme cold, and what is long past becomes closer. You can demonstrate this by pleating a ribbon and sticking a pin through. Point 2, once yards from... I'm gonna start over. Sometimes words are hard, even though I love words. Okay. Time folds, he said, meaning that as time goes on, it buckles in the extreme heat, in the extreme cold, and what is long past becomes closer. You can demonstrate this by pleating a ribbon and sticking a pin through. Pointing 2, once yards away from point 1, now lies just beside it. Is time and space like an accordion, but without the music? Was he making a statement about hard physics? Or was he saying, time folds its wings at long last. Time folds in its tents and steals away silently. Time folds you in its folds as if you were a lamb and the lack of time a wolf. Time folds you in the blanket of itself. It folds you in tenderly and wraps you around. For where would you be without it? Time folds you in its arms and gives you one last kiss, and it flattens you out and folds you up and tucks you away until it's time for you to become someone else's pastime, and then time folds again. That one's hard to read out loud. It's one of my favorites. That's all from the tent. I'm going to move on to one of my other favorites. This is probably my favorite, I guess, contemporary poetry book. I guess Margaret Atwood is contemporary, but like, I don't know. This is called Pillow Thoughts. I don't know if I've ever actually shown this on the channel before, but I have a big tattoo of a jellyfish on my calf. That I already had when I saw this book on the shelf, and I was just like, ooh, zing, this book is for me, and I love it. It's really good. I really like how it's structured. It's like, where's the table of contents? It's, the table of thoughts, rather, is, her poems are broken down by if you are dreaming of someone, if you are in love, if you are heartbroken, if you are lonely, if you are sad, if you are missing someone, if you need encouragement, if you are soul searching, if you need a reason to stay, if you need hope, these are for you. So yeah, this is by Courtney, Peppernell, and this is Pillow Thoughts. begin, I'd like to share a story. Once upon a time, there was a jellyfish. We'll call it you. You became lost sometimes. You could be a little unsure. You tried very hard, but sometimes it didn't feel like enough. I hate to spoil the ending, but you is fine. You is still here. You is going to make it. Pillow thoughts. A lot of the poems are pretty short, but I really like them. I love short poetry. One of my favorite ways to describe poetry is like poetry is the art of omission. So like how much can you say using how little words, basically. If I loved you, then you'd become my balloon. I'd tie your string to my finger and I'd never let you float away. Until one day, when you wanted, we'd float away together. May your weapon be kindness, your shield compassion. May the flowers grow again to sprout love from all this sadness. I love pillow thoughts in particular. I don't usually go for like romantic poetry, but something about Courtney's or like the ones in this one at least, they're so romantic and I love them. There is so much noise. The city never sleeps, and I long for just one day. Everything is so quiet. You and I could hear the clouds move. You are a collection of miracles, bound together by sunlight. But you are also much more than that. You are a story, a home, a wolf that howls in the night. Oh, this one gets me. Actually, both of these ones get me. They're one after the other. Page 212 and 213. By existing, you are planting softness in soil that has turned hard. There is no need to surrender your existence. You are doing fine by even existing at all. Some days you are raw and things are falling apart, and when you look in the mirror, you see an enemy. Someone you hate with all your heart. But this is not how they see you. When they look back at you, they see an entire universe. You are a body of art. You are a map of galaxies. You are every flower, lovely from the start. So when recovery seems far away and no one understands, when life cannot get any worse and you would rather cry all day, know you are wanted and loved. I cannot survive. Yes, you can. You are needed, so please choose to stay alive. For all the moments you believe you are a stepping stone, the spark before the fire, the cloud before the rain. No, I think of you as more. You are my favorite summer, the song I replay. You are the best adventure, the one I love, the voice I could listen to all day. The last one from Peppernell is going to be My heart has never been very sensible. I've been lost in cities and torn apart. I've been distracted, burning bright with reckless reactions. But please believe me when I say, you are the best decision I have ever made. Alright, we're going to close with, I think, my favorite poetry book. It's 12 Moons by Mary Oliver. I took a poetry course in my second year, and I did a presentation on this book with a friend, where I read this book, which is from pretty early in her career, and she read a book from later in her career. My friend presented on Thirst, and the contrast was amazing. All of her poems were amazing. Like, oh, I love Mary Oliver. It was very hard to narrow down which ones I wanted to share in this video and for that presentation, because so many of them are so good. A queer icon to the core. Just and like, our presentation was actually really interesting because this one was written like before her partner passed away, and then Thirst was written after, and it's all about grief, whereas this one definitely touches on grief, but it's about the 12 moons, meaning like the 12 months of the year, and it's like a journey through them. So yeah, and Mary Oliver loves nature, and so do I. So I find a lot of solace in her poetry. This first one's called Mussels. Not like mussels, but like the clams, the barnacles, the crustaceans. They're not crustaceans. Oh shit, I should know this. Oh, this is gonna bother me. Whatever the fuck mussels are. Crustaceans. Oh, I'm gonna kick myself for that later, but that's okay. Anyway, mussels. In the riprap, in the cool caves, in the dim and salt-refreshed recesses, they cling in dark clusters, in barnacled fistfuls, in the dampness that never leaves, in the deeps of high tides, in the slow washing away of the water in which they feed, in which the blue shells open a little and the orange bodies make a sound, not loud, not unmusical, as they take nourishment, as the ocean enters their bodies. At low tide, I am on the riprap, clattering with boots and a pail, rock over rock. I choose the crevice. I reach forward into the dampness, my hands feeling everywhere for the biggest, the best. Even before I decide which to take, which to twist from the wet rocks, which to devour, they who have no eyes to see with, see me like a shadow, bending forward. Together, they make a sound, not loud, not unmusical, as they lean into the rocks, away from my grasping fingers. I really like this one too because of like the way she structures her poetry. It's like shaped, and it kind of looks like a craggy, rocky beach where you would be like rooting around for mussels and clams. This one's good. This is one of the, there's 12 moons in this book, so this one is Pink Moon. Pink Moon. You think it'll never happen again. Then, one night in April, the tribes wake trilling. You walk down to the shore, your coming stills them. But little by little, the silence lifts until song is everywhere, and your soul rises from your bones and strides out over the water. It is a crazy thing to do, for no one can live like that, floating around in the darkness over the gauzy water. Left on the shore, your bones keep shouting, "Come back!" But your soul won't listen. In the distance, it is unfolding like a pair of wings. It is sparking like hot wires. So, like a good friend, you decide to follow. You step off the shore and plummet to your knees. You slog forward to your thighs and sink to your cheekbones. And now you are caught by the cold chains of the water. You are vanishing while around you the frogs continue to sing, driving their music upward through your own throat, not even noticing you are something else. And that's when it happens. You see everything through their eyes, their joy, their necessity. You wear their webbed fingers and your throat swells. And that's when you know you will live whether you will or not, one way or another. Because everything is everything else. One long muscle. It's no more mysterious than that. So you relax. You don't fight it anymore. The darkness coming down, called water, called spring, called the green leaf, called a woman's body. As it turns into mud and leaves, as it beats in its cage of water, as it turns like a lonely spindle in the moonlight, as it says, yes. Music major in me jumped out with this one. I love this one. This one's called Music Lessons. Sometimes in the middle of a lesson, we exchanged places. She would gaze a moment at her hands, spread over the keys, then the small house with its knickknacks, its shut windows. Its photographs of her sons and the serious husband vanished as new shapes formed. Sound became music, and music a white scarp for the listener to climb alone. I leapt rock over rock to the top and found myself waiting, transformed. And still she played, her eyes luminous and willful, her pinned hair falling down. Forgetting me, the house, the neat green yard, she fled into that lick of flame, all tedious bonds, supper, the duties of flesh and home, the knife at the throat, the death in the metronome. I love Mary Oliver. I love Mary Oliver. I love Mary Oliver. Anyway, sorry, every single one of these poems makes me go feral. This one's just called Swamp. So, ASMR Goblin. I can't not read it. Muskrats float like small bears, then dive down to the mud, sour as old milk. It waits, gray nightmare, to rise up with every turbulence. Some birds with sharp wings fly over, and schools of fish flash through the shallows, and stands of rusty cattails rattle like scrap metal. But it's not these that sets nervousness clanging in the blood. It's the unseen creepers, the venomous crawlers, the lurkers, squirmers, the mute, the heavy, the slow. I think one or two more, and then I'm gonna call it. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've certainly had a good time. I love poetry. I'm always happy to read more of it if you guys like. This next one's called At Blackwater Pond. I'm a huge sucker for water imagery, if you hadn't noticed. At Blackwater Pond. You know how it feels. Wanting to walk into the rain and disappear, wanting to feel your life brighten and grow weightless as a leaf in the fall. And sometimes, for a moment, you feel it beginning. The sense of escape, sharp as a knife blade, hangs over you, hangs over the dark field of your body, and your soul waits just under the skin to leap away over the water. But the blade, at the last minute, hesitates and does not fall, and the body does not open, and you are what you are, trapped, heavy and visible under the rain, only your vision, delicate as old leaves skimming over the mounds of the seasons, the limits of everything, the few shaped bones of time. This was written right around the time she had a close friend commit suicide. I'm gonna end off with the last poem in this book, which is Worm Moon, which is one of my favorite cosmic events, coincidentally, is the Worm Moon. I think there's a frog moon in here too. Anyway, Worm Moon. In March, the earth remembers its own name. Everywhere, the plates of snow are cracking. The rivers begin to sing. In the sky, the winter stars are sliding away. New stars appear as, later, small blades of grain will shine in the dark fields. And the name of every place is joyful. The season of curiosity is everlasting, and the hour for adventure never ends. But tonight, even the men who walked upon the moon are lying content by open windows, where the winds are sweeping over the fields, over water, over the naked earth, into villages and lonely country houses and the vast cities. Because it is spring, because once more the moon and the earth are eloping, a love match that will bring forth fantastic children who will learn to stand, walk, and finally run over the surface of the earth, who will believe for years that everything is possible. Born of clay, how shall a man be holy? Born of water, how shall a man visit the stars? Born of the seasons, how shall a man live forever? Soon, the child of the red-spotted newt, the eft, will enter his life from the tiny egg. On his delicate legs, he will run through the valleys of moss, down to the leaf mold by the streams, where lately white snow lay upon the earth, like a deep and lustrous blanket of moon fire. And probably, everything is possible. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful night. I hope you enjoyed the poems. Tell me your favorite poet down below in the comments if you have one, if you made it this far, if you're still with me, if you're watching. I love you. Thank you for your time. I genuinely consider it a privilege that you choose to spend your time listening to me talk. I can't believe that. Anyway, thank you. Good night.